The first slap echoed louder than the café's music. Conversation stopped. Coffee cups froze halfway to waiting lips. Every eye turned toward me as the burning sting spread across my cheek, and before I could even understand what had happened, the woman standing in front of me looked as though she wanted to hit me again. Her eyes were filled with years of anger, heartbreak, and betrayal, yet something about them seemed strangely broken, as if they had cried so long they had forgotten how to stop. Then, just as quickly as the rage appeared, it disappeared. She stared into my face for a few painful seconds, stepped back with trembling hands, and whispered, "You're not him." In that moment, I realized that whatever story had brought this stranger into my life was far more heartbreaking than the humiliation I was feeling. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can heal even the deepest wounds and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us how one unexpected moment can change everything. The entire cafe remained silent as she apologized with tears gathering in her eyes. I could have shouted. I could have demanded an explanation or even called the police after being assaulted in public. Instead, I noticed something most people overlooked. She wasn't angry anymore. She looked terrified. The kind of fear that comes only after realizing you have relived your worst memory. She turned to leave without another word, shoulders shaking as if carrying the weight of an invisible mountain. Something inside me refused to let her disappear. I quietly told the stunned customers that everything was fine, picked up my untouched coffee, and followed her outside into the cool afternoon rain. She stood beneath the cafe awning, staring across the busy street without really seeing it. Her mascara mixed with raindrops as she struggled to breathe normally. I approached carefully, keeping enough distance so she wouldn't feel threatened. She apologized again, this time explaining that for one impossible second I looked exactly like someone she had spent years trying to forget. She admitted she had not seen that man in almost 5 years, yet every night she still dreamed about him. My anger slowly faded as I listened. There was something painfully genuine about the way she spoke, as though every sentence cost her another piece of her already shattered heart. Her name was Emily. She had once been engaged to a man named Daniel, someone she believed would spend forever by her side. They built dreams together, planned a future together, and imagined children growing up in a little house surrounded by flowers. But only months before their wedding, Daniel vanished without warning. No goodbye. No explanation. No phone calls. No letters. Friends assumed he had gotten cold feet. Others whispered that he had found someone else. Emily searched every place they had shared memories, refusing to believe the man she loved would simply disappear. Eventually she accepted that she would never know the truth, but acceptance did not erase the scars. As we talked, I learned that the slap had nothing to do with hatred alone. For years she had rehearsed that moment in her mind, imagining what she would do if she ever saw Daniel again. The slap represented every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every birthday spent wondering why she had never been enough. Yet when she looked closely at me, she realized I wasn't him. I was simply another stranger carrying my own invisible burdens. I should have gone home after that conversation, but life has strange ways of introducing people who desperately need each other. Over the following weeks, we crossed paths again. Sometimes at the cafe. Sometimes in the nearby park. Sometimes completely by accident. Each meeting became a little longer than the last. We spoke about ordinary things first, then about childhood dreams, regrets, family, and the quiet loneliness that hides behind successful careers and smiling photographs. I had lost my younger brother years earlier after a misunderstanding neither of us had tried hard enough to fix. Before I found the courage to call him, a tragic accident took his life. Ever since then I had lived with my own collection of unanswered questions. Emily and I were strangers connected not by romance but by unfinished grief. One rainy evening she confessed something that changed everything. She had never stopped looking for Daniel. Every few months she searched online records, social media, and old acquaintances hoping someone might know where he had gone. I asked why she still searched after so many years. She answered that forgiveness is impossible when you never learn what actually happened. Her words stayed with me for days. I couldn't stop thinking about how many people spend their lives imprisoned by questions that may never receive answers. Curiosity slowly turned into determination. During weekends I helped Emily revisit forgotten clues. We visited neighborhoods where Daniel had once worked. We spoke to people who barely remembered him. Most conversations ended in disappointment, but each failure somehow strengthened our resolve. Months passed before an elderly mechanic remembered seeing Daniel shortly before his disappearance. According to him, Daniel had been injured in a terrible construction accident and later left town after receiving devastating medical news. That tiny clue led us to another city nearly 200 miles away. There we discovered the truth hidden beneath years of silence. Daniel had survived the accident but suffered permanent injuries that ended the career he loved. Worse still, doctors believed he would never fully recover and might require lifelong treatment. Feeling ashamed and convinced he would only become a burden, he disappeared before the wedding. He believed Emily deserved someone healthier, someone stronger, someone capable of giving her the future they had dreamed about together. Instead of trusting her with the truth, he made the heartbreaking decision to erase himself from her life completely. When Emily finally met him again, there was no dramatic reunion like those seen in movies. There were only two exhausted people carrying years of unnecessary pain. Time had changed both of them. Gray hairs had appeared where youth once lived. Smiles arrived more slowly. Tears came much more easily. They spoke for hours behind a small rehabilitation center while I quietly waited outside. When Emily eventually returned, she wasn't smiling, but something inside her had finally become lighter. She had received the answer she had chased for 5 long years. The truth could not erase the past, but it released her from wondering whether she had simply been abandoned because she wasn't enough. Watching their reunion taught me something unexpected about my own life. I finally understood that waiting for perfect circumstances only creates deeper regret. That same evening I drove to my parents' house and spent hours looking through old family photographs of my brother. Instead of crying over what I could never change, I began volunteering at a community center that helped families overcome conflict before silence became permanent. Every conversation I facilitated felt like honoring the brother I had lost and preventing another family from living with endless unanswered questions. Months later, Emily returned to the café where everything had begun. We laughed about the slap that had once embarrassed me in front of dozens of strangers. She insisted on buying my coffee every time we met, claiming she still owed me for the bruise that had long since faded. The café owner joked that the loudest slap in his business had somehow produced the quietest friendship. Looking around at people chatting, laughing, and rushing through ordinary afternoons, I realized that every face probably carried a story hidden beneath the surface. Some battles are invisible until life accidentally reveals them. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to support more stories that remind us compassion can change lives in the most unexpected ways. Special request: before this story ends, please comment below with the words, "Kindness changes everything," if you believe a single act of compassion can rewrite someone's future. As I left the cafe one final time, I touched the cheek that had once burned with humiliation and smiled. That painful moment could have become nothing more than a story about anger and embarrassment. Instead, it became a reminder that we never truly know what another person is carrying inside. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are not driven by cruelty but by wounds that have never healed. Choosing understanding instead of revenge will not always change the other person, but it will always change us. And perhaps that is life's greatest miracle, that even the most painful misunderstanding can become the first page of someone else's healing, proving that kindness offered in the right moment can echo through lives we never expected to touch.